Hi, Rich Spezzano here from Digitally Feelers. And as many of you know that I recently bought an iPad, never used one before, but the main reason I bought the iPad is so I can use Affinity Photo on the go. And I think it's a fantastic app, but I do have some issues, and I am going to post it in the user affinity group. But I wanted to show you some of the issues I'm having. If you just use the iPad version, this might not mean that much to you, but if you use both, this seems to be a pretty big problem. But before we start, please click that like and subscribe button. I really appreciate it, and it helps my channel, and let's get started. I created this file right here on my desktop. On the desktop, you can contour your lines. And now if I say, for example, I sent this to somebody else to adjust or do something different to it, or myself when I'm not even in my office, here's the problem I have. Affinity Photo for the iPad does not have a stroke adjustment. They only have the outline adjustment in effects. So if I went to effect, say I selected that outline and I go to effects, I can only add maybe another outline to it like that. And I don't want to do that. So let's undo that. And so that's not the real problem I'm having. Problem is I received this folder from iCloud where I put it on when I was doing it in desktop, but now every time I go to use the pen tool, that's all I get. I can't even switch this out. So if I wanted to add to this logo and do something completely different, I can't do anything because there's no way of me changing that line. I could change the color, but I can't change the actual, unless someone can tell me how. Maybe there is a way how. I keep looking and I don't know how it would work, but I have no way. So this is a huge problem for me, because if you're drawing, say you're cartooning or something, there's tons of these lines in the artwork, and we're not talking about one or two like here. We're talking about there could be 100 strokes in the artwork that are like this. So that's problem number one that I have. The second problem I have are the icons are not the same. For example, here is the desktop icons for filter and adjustment. And here is the iPad icons for filter and adjustments. Why are they not the same? Either put the desktop icons the same on the iPad or switch the desktop icons to the new icons that they want to use that they have on the iPad. It's very confusing for me when I go from the desktop app to the iPad app and the same feature has a different icon. Next is a selection persona. Why in the world do we have a selection persona up here, which is a whole new persona, and it just, let's say I drew this, and you see I still can't draw from the last one, but let's say I did that. We give it a fill color of blue, and let's do no outline so that we can just show that. And then I'm going to go up to the layer menu, and I'm going to rasterize it. So now if I want to select a piece of that, my biggest problem is I don't have it on this menu over here like we have in the desktop. So I have to go to the selection menu, and I'll have to accept that. And then say I take this lasso tool and I do this, right? So now I have to, if I want to select that, now I have to go back to, from the select persona back to the pixel persona, then touch it, and then say copy, and then deselect it, which is press again, deselect, and then say press again, and then say paste. And then I can move that there. That's a lot of work. My suggestion is do not put a selection persona. You see how we have the shape tool on the side and it shows all that? Just like the desktop, why not do this? Let's follow the desktop and put the shape tool on the desktop just like this. I think it would be so much more convenient and not confusing. Now maybe Affinity had a reason for this. I don't know what the reason is, but adding another persona to me, there was enough confusion when they added the first personas. It took people a while to get used to it. Why add another persona on top? Okay, so that's number two. That's number three, actually. Number 4 is if I have something, let's pull in a photo, any photo, it doesn't really matter. This is my layer menu. I need to invert this. On the desktop, I could do Command or Control I, but I understand iPad doesn't use a keyboard very much. It's mostly pen and finger and whatever. So on the desktop, I would go up here. I can also do invert on one of these top menus. You don't have it there. My suggestion is on this menu here, why can't you just have an invert instead of just this group, this small group of selections? It has to do with the layer. So if it has to do with the layer, why can't you click that layer menu and hit invert? It would make life so much easier. Number 5 is every time I need to do something, and this is just a pet peeve for me. It maybe doesn't mean anything to other people, but every time I want to use a tool, say I go to here, let's say I go here and I want to convert it to curves, it's right here on the bottom. And I have to look down when I'm normally looking up, especially on the desktop. I'm always looking up. I'd rather have all my menus on top. It's not a necessity, but this is just a suggestion for me. I see no reason why this top menu up here can't shrink down while you're using something else. So why can't you have a context menu like this? Okay, my next thing is snapping. Right now I have it snapping. If I want to enable and disable snapping, on the iPad I have to go up here to the top menu. Then I have to go to snapping, I believe. Hold on, there we go. And then I have to click snapping enabled or snapping off, whichever one. Then I have to click done. And then it brings me back, and now I can snap or unsnap. That takes me away from my thoughts while I'm creating something. I don't think I should have to do that. Affinity put the snapping and even the delete right below on the left in Designer for iPad, but it did not do it for photo. I don't understand why. Once again, maybe Affinity has a reason, and maybe you people can put it in the comments, any of the things I'm talking about. Maybe I'm being ridiculous, but it is not consistent. And maybe different people did the design for these, and I understand that could happen, but they weren't looking at it from the point of view of someone who uses both. Maybe it was just for someone who uses only the iPad. So I would really appreciate it if Affinity would put that snapping down there, because for me to be working on something like this and have to go out of that work, go all the way to snapping, open this big menu which covers up the work I was with, and decide I don't want to snap and then hit done, and now it won't snap, is kind of ridiculous for me. So that part bugs me. These are my little pet peeves, and it's just really suggestions, and I'm going to say it again. This is an amazing, amazing, powerful app on the iPad. And if I only had the iPad, I wouldn't even be thinking of stuff like this. But because I'm using both, I feel like the consistency should be a little fine-tuned. And I'm hoping maybe they will, and maybe they'll take some of my suggestions. Okay, so now the other thing is the Save menu. Let's say I'm doing something new. I don't care what kind. I'm just going to pick any document. And maybe this has to do with iPad because I'm not an iPad person. Once again, I'm going to draw a rectangle. I'll give it a color. Now this is a big, beautiful piece of art, because everyone knows how beautiful my art is when I do these quick tutorials, and I take no time to do them. But now if I want to go save, it says save a copy. It doesn't say save, and it won't let me hit save and tell me where to save it to. And that bugs me. I'm not used to that. Again, coming from the desktop. Maybe there's a reason for it. So it's kind of crazy, but what I have to do is I have to go out. I could save a copy, but to save normally I'd have to go out here first, and then there it is, and then I have to rename it right here, and then I could save it. That's like, doesn't make any sense to me. But maybe it makes sense to just iPad people. But it doesn't make sense when a person in a desktop, because once I did save it, then I come back, I can click this again. If I had saved it out there, now I can hit save again, whatever I do to it. So I don't understand the logic. Maybe it is me, and I'm too old to understand this kind of stuff, but It doesn't make sense. Okay, another pet peeve I have is the scrolling menus. For example, if I go to the filter menu, let's just do something here. First, let's do a paintbrush. Let's add another layer and put a different color. And then let's paint again. If I go to filters, which is right here, and I scroll to the end. You see how I scrolled and it stopped, and I scrolled back and it stopped, and then I can choose a filter. I won't choose one now. Notice how I did that, and notice also if I go to brushes, I scroll up and it stops, and I scroll down and it stops. So I always know where to find a filter, even effects. Well, effects doesn't scroll, but it only goes up and, yeah, well, it stops though. It just goes like that and that. So let's go back to filters. I kind of always know now, and great, I'm glad it's in alphabetical order here, but I always know that the filter is, when I'm scrolling, I'm at the end and I can go back. And let's say now on this one, I wanted to go here and I wanted to decide which blend mode. Well, I have to go through this, and I don't know I'm at the end and I'm going one at a time, except it keeps going and going and going. Normal on the other means I would just go like this and then it stops and I'm at the top, and that would be normal. Here I have to keep going and keep going, and it's just repeating itself. Makes no logic to me. Maybe they thought it was easier, but then they didn't do that with the other filters. I would prefer it stops. Like if normal's going to be the one on the top, then normal should be on the top. Just let it go down and let it slide up, and whatever one is always there, I know where to find it. And this one also is not anything major, but it's kind of a little weird to me. I didn't understand when I went to filters before. I didn't realize, like, it says add live filters, so I thought it would put all live filters added to this list, but it doesn't. And so I click it, and now this is only the live filters. By the way, notice how it stops again, which is great because then I'll always know where it is. It would be more intuitive if it said select live filters as opposed to add live filters, because either way, now it still says add live filters. And maybe that's just a stupid thing, and I apologize. That's one of the least problems I have. Once I got used to it, I understood it. I want to make it clear, these are things that I'm finding difficult because I'm switching from the desktop apps to the iPad apps and back. This may not be a problem for most people, but it is a little bit of a problem, and I will get used to it. And I'm loving doing the tutorials. I'm learning on this iPad. It just takes me so much longer because I was so used to the desktop. And all the tools are there. I just think these simple little changes really will help people who are using both. The biggest issue I have, and it's not cosmetic in any way, is when I do something with a fancy stroke and then I bring it into Affinity and I can't even use the regular strokes anymore because of that. I mean, that's a big problem, and that should be solved somehow. I love carrying my iPad with me now, and I love being able to sketch when I'm outdoors, and it's a fantastic app. I love that Affinity took the time to make an app so wonderful. I'm just hoping that these minor changes or suggestions will happen in the future. If you think that I'm wrong about a lot of these changes, and maybe I am, maybe there is a solution on some of these, but if you think I'm wrong, please leave comments below. And please like and subscribe this video. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much and have a great day. Bye.